Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Kimberley Hoeppner, and today is Thursday, August 6, 2015. When we're not here, you can always find our information online at www.arh.noaa.gov, or if you'd like to call in, our 1-800 number is 1-800-472-0391. And as always, we encourage you to check out our Facebook and Twitter page on our social media that can be found on weather.gov. Navigate to the destination of your choice, and you'll find that social media bar in the top area of the web page. Now on to the headlines of the day. Let me just step out of your way a moment so you can read them along with me. We have a slow pattern change that's going to be happening through Saturday, and currently we have a cold front moving into the northwest coast and a warm front over the southern Bering and Aleutians. So we also have a weakening low over the Gulf, and those are our topics for today. So just really some nice summer weather. We have no warnings to start out with, so we're just going to go take a look over here at the Bering, and right here, Shimia, the western Aleutians. We have a large low pressure system here, well developed, and you'll see these clouds just kind of spinning around that low pressure system out towards the west. And this is pushing a front right here along the southern areas of the Bering. So going and putting that into motion one more time, you can see that it's not really making much progression. Along the northern areas of the Bering, you can't see the clouds, but it's covered with low clouds and fog, just not picked up on the infrared satellite due to the temperatures and the clouds being about the same temperatures this time of the year. Now taking a look closer to the mainland, we have another low pressure system that's out here in the southern Gulf, and another low pressure that's approaching out here across the northwest. Generally cloudy pattern across most of the state, and some shower activity developing here this afternoon from Fairbanks and east, and more shower activity on the north side of this low developing during the afternoon. So here, let's take and put this into motion. You can see the progression of the low pressure system that's moving into the eastern Gulf, which will be a concern for the southeast as we head into the evening hours. And along the northern coast here, you can see a cold air mass that's just kind of working its way down towards the Bering Strait. So the low circulation is still well to the northwest of the Alaska coast here, but that'll be one to watch as we head into the weekend. Now taking a look at the surface chart from earlier today, this is the most developed system along the western Aleutians here, pushing a warm front just about to the central Bering. It's staying out of the Pribilofs right now. Mainly saw some rain stretching across the central Aleutians and western areas of the chain. And then across the Alaska Peninsula, just some general cloudiness ahead of the system, and areas of fog all across the northern areas of the Bering. Now taking a look across the western Gulf, it's starting to clear out as this low pressure system that's been kind of slow to move off the last few days is finally making progress and weakening as it moves to the east. Some light showers are out ahead of this system, and that'll be moving some showers in during the late afternoon hours. You could see some development ahead of the low pressure system with the thickening of the clouds there. And also some weak showers, a weak boundary, a thermal trough across the interiors, helping some showers spark off across the Copper River Valley and from Fairbanks east. Along the northern coast, mainly quiet conditions. However, we do have fog conditions all along the north coast back towards the northwestern coast, towards the Seward Peninsula. Now looking at your weather for tonight, not much change in the pattern. Here's that low pressure system at the surface, brings some shower activity across the southeast. Pretty much all of the southeast will see some light showers overnight. Possibility for some thunderstorms from Fairbanks and east, and also across the eastern areas of the Alaska Range, and some shower activity is also possible across the Susitna Valley and here along the Kuskokwim Queen Valley. As you make it over towards the west coast, mainly clear conditions, and that'll help to allow for fog just to kind of creep on over into the coast tonight, as we have some weak area of high pressure in between the two low pressure systems. Here's that front up to the northwest coast, making some advancement towards the Seward Peninsula here, and mainly we'll see some light rain ahead of this system, with snow just staying to the north of Barrow. So lighter wind conditions also across the north and northwest coast until that low pressure makes it in a little bit further. Main concerns for wind for tonight is just along the boundary here across the southern areas of the Bering and back towards Shimia. So we'll see some rain forming along this band during the overnight hours, with a little bit of a break as this system begins to move up. And you can see this break here between the first frontal rain band that's gone through during the day today. Then we'll have another wave that comes up with this low pressure system as it starts moving into the central area of the Aleutians. Now, areas of fog will stay in across much of the northern Bering, and fog will also continue on up towards the coastal areas, with the cooler temperatures dropping down with this front as it heads into the northwestern areas. For the central areas on Friday, you'll see some breaks in the clouds, some possible morning and afternoon showers, mainly along the higher elevations and also along here the eastern areas of the Kenai Peninsula. Some shower activity from wraparound precipitation with this low pressure moving into the southeast. So we're expecting that low pressure to move very slow, so expect showery conditions to continue across the southeast through the afternoon hours. Now, as we head into Saturday, that low pressure across the southeast will be moving off to the south a little bit further, and rain is going to start diminishing as we head through the day on Saturday. Across the coastal areas, mainly clear conditions. As you can see, this ridge is kind of nudging in towards the coastal areas, so just be on the watch for some patchy fog in the morning hours on Saturday. Across the interior and out towards the west, just showery conditions mainly during the afternoon. The thermal trough is still going to, keep it fairly warm across the central areas of the state, and that'll just be diurnal showers mainly in the afternoon. Across the northern coast, we'll see fog conditions continuing and mainly rain chances along the Brooks Range and west towards the Seward Peninsula as this cold front drops to the south. Now, out across the Bering, we'll see that low pressure system continuing. Right now, we're projecting it to be about 1,002 millibars. It starts out 999 today, so really not much change in the millibars as we head into the weekend, and not much change in the rain pattern, just more rain moving up towards the Pribilof, so they should see rain by Saturday. Light rain will continue through the Aleutian chain without that pressure system moving anywhere, and ridging will keep quieter conditions across much of the Gulf, so lighter wind speeds should keep for a pretty good start to your weekend if you're looking to head out on the boat. Okay, now looking at your temperatures from today, like I said, the thermal trough kept things warm across the state. Glen Allen and McGrath there had seen actually temperatures climb to 74 degrees this afternoon. Otherwise, we saw temperatures across the Kenai Peninsula in the mid-60s and all the way towards the northeastern coast, and a little bit cooler in some areas of the southeast with that low pressure system having a little bit of a cooler air mass and clouds continuing across the southeast there. So mainly in the mid to upper 50s. Now let's look north to the Arctic areas. They saw temperatures not too bad, mainly in the mid 40s, but we did see temperatures starting to fall across from Dead Horse and east, getting down to 42 degrees and 41 degrees over at Prudhoe Bay there across the western coastal areas. Starting to see a little bit cooler conditions creep into the Seward Peninsula as that front makes its way over. So otherwise, a little bit cooler along the coastal areas in the mid-50s. The southwestern areas had climbed into the mid-60s, along with the Alaska Peninsula. Out over the Bering with that cool maritime environment, they're seeing temperatures in the 50s and a little bit cooler temperatures across the western half of the Aleutians, with Shimia seeing 48 this afternoon along that frontal system. Now looking at the temperature for tonight, not much change over the Bering. We're going to see temperatures in the mid-40s to lower 50s across the Alaska Peninsula. Southwest will see temperatures near 50 degrees, and along the Gulf Coast waters also we'll see around 50 degrees. Over towards the southeast, they'll stay in the lower 50s mainly. Interior areas will drop a little bit cooler in the mid-40s. With the coolest temperatures along the north coast, we'll see from Barrow and east, they'll see temperatures dropping down into the lower 30s. But for tomorrow's highs, we're going to climb up quite warm again with the thermal trough, bringing temperatures well back into the mid-70s, all the way down through the southwest and the Alaska Peninsula. We'll even see a few temperatures down towards Port Huyden climbing into the mid-60s. Now, the coldest areas of the state tomorrow will be along the northwest coast, with those temperatures dropping into the mid-40s and possibly a little bit cooler if that system advances a little bit sooner than expected. Now across the southeast, expect temperatures to be a little bit warmer tomorrow in the 60s, and we're going to see slightly warmer temperatures with that warm front that pushes through, and temperatures will climb back into the 50s all the way out through the western Aleutians there. Now the flying weather conditions, IFR widespread across the Bering, as we have the low clouds and fog just going to persist in this pattern that's not changing. And then we'll also see possible IFR conditions around the low pressure system in the eastern Gulf, and might start at some MVFR conditions in the morning as some fog from the high pressure over the Gulf waters there, but that should improve by the early afternoon. Mainly across the north and northwestern coastal areas can see some IFR to MVFR conditions with that low pressure system moving in, and also along the southwestern coast. Look for IFR conditions with fog and low clouds towards the Bristol Bay area. Now looking at your passes in more depth, we have Inutuvik Pass, which should go MVFR to VFR late in the day, and Adigan Pass will also be MVFR to VFR. And we'll see Lake Clark and Merrill Pass there, VFR all day, and Rainy Pass as well, VFR. Windy Pass will be VFR, and Isabel Pass VFR. We'll see Mentasta also VFR, great conditions there at Tanita as well. And we'll see Portage with VFR conditions, possibly patchy morning fog, but mainly VFR. Chilkoot and White Pass will be MVFR conditions for your day tomorrow. And looking at your freezing levels, the surface freezing level is just off the northern coast there. So we have the 2,000 foot level across the Bering Strait, and increases very quickly to 10,000 foot across all of the Bering. So between 8 to 10,000 feet across the Gulf waters, with slightly warmer conditions up to 12,000 feet over the Alaska Peninsula. Across much of the state, it's going to be between 8 to 10,000 foot for your freezing level. Now tomorrow, we might have some light icing around the low pressure systems here in the southeast, would be above 10,000 feet. Along the northern coast, we'll see below 5,000 feet with possible widespread conditions there along the coast. Widespread conditions also a concern across the western areas of the Aleutians, and that's going to be between 6 to 12,000 feet. Looking at your jet stream for tomorrow, well, here's a weak troughing across the Bering Strait, and then we also have a strong jet stream that's coming across the Alaska Peninsula. Here's that ridging that's pushing on towards the southern areas of the Gulf. So at the 9,000 foot level, we have low pressure well formed across the Bering Strait tomorrow. The strongest winds over the Brooks Range between 35 and 40 knots. A weaker low pressure system across the southeast, change of direction around this system, mainly between 25 and 30 knots across our forecast area. Now the low pressure system out in the Bering, that's going to be fairly weak for being such an organized system, between 25 and 30 knots, change of direction around this low pressure system, with the strongest winds staying well south of that low pressure. At the 3,000 foot level, looks very similar. Here you can see the defined lows out in the west and to the north. All the winds are going to be between 15 to 25 knots around these pressure systems, with a ridging just over the Kodiak Island area and the weakening low off to the southeast. Looking at your turbulence now around these systems, we'll see below 5,000 feet around this system that's pushing into the eastern areas. However, these systems look well organized, but they're not bringing a lot of heightened turbulence. So below 5,000 feet just barely clips that northwest coast and possibly into the western Brooks Range area. And you also want to be careful if you're out there towards the southern Bering and Aleutian. The primary concerns out there are going to be below 3,000 feet. So just in a minute, we'll be back with your marine forecast. Please stay with us.
That's it, we're going to Vega.
Welcome to Stargazers. I'm Dean Regas, astronomer from the Cincinnati Observatory.
And I'm James Albury, director of the Kika Silva Plot Planetarium in Gainesville, Florida. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and wondered what direction we're headed? I mean, all the stars are flying through space at different speeds.
Yes, and since our sun is a star too, it's also flying through space, and it's dragging us along with it. So what direction are we headed?
Well, believe it or not, we know, and we'd like to show you. Okay, we have our skies set up for any clear night next week at about 11 p.m. your local time. If you look almost overhead, you'll see a very bright star near the zenith. That bright star is the fifth brightest star we can see from Earth, and its name is Vega.
Vega is the brightest of the three bright stars that make up the summer triangle, and it's the star farthest to the west. The next brightest star is Altair in Aquila the Eagle, and the third brightest is Deneb in Cygnus the Swan.
But the one that really grabs your attention is Vega, because it glistens with a sharp, crisp, blue-white light. In fact, it's so bright and obvious that when it's overhead, it has been called the arc light of summer nights.
And its blue-white color tells us that it is much hotter than our own yellow-orange sun. In fact, compared to our sun's temperature of 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit, Vega blazes away at a fierce 17,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
And Vega is considerably larger, for while our sun is a little under 1 million miles wide, Vega is almost 3 million miles in diameter, which makes it easy to understand that if we could place our sun and Vega side by side, Vega would shine 58 times brighter than the sun. Now, although Vega is far away from Polaris, the North Star of our time, Vega actually was the North Star 14,000 years ago due to a wobbling motion our Earth makes that we call precession.
Precession causes our Earth's rotational axis to trace out a cone in the night sky, and this motion regularly causes our Earth's axis to point in the direction of Vega. However, it's a motion that's so slow you wouldn't notice it in your lifetime. Only 1 degree of movement every 72 years. Ancient civilizations noticed the effects of precession because their observations of the night sky span hundreds of years. So, if you lived long enough, you notice that Vega would become our North Star once every 26,000 years.
So, 12,000 years from now, Vega, which was the North Star of our caveman ancestors, will once again be the North Star of our descendants. By now you've probably guessed that Vega is the bright star in whose direction our sun and all its planets are headed.
That's right, James. Our sun and Earth are racing at the incredible speed of 12 miles per second towards Vega. And even though Vega is only 25 light years away, at this speed it would still take our sun almost 500 million years to reach Vega.
All right, let's see what the planets are doing this week.
Okay, we have our skies set for just after sunset any night this week. And if you look toward the south, you'll see the ring planet Saturn just to the right of the 3 stars that mark the face of Scorpius the Scorpion.
And for those of you who like to do your stargazing before sunrise, Mars will be making its reappearance in the sky very low on the eastern horizon in the early part of August. You'll have to wait another week for Mars to get far enough away from the sun to be easily visible. But if you keep watching throughout August, we have a surprise for you.
That's right, James, because at the end of August, the goddess of love reunites with the god of war. Venus and Mars haven't appeared this close to each other in the sky since late February of this year.
So keep your eye out for Vega high overhead in the evening sky.
And check out Saturn just after sunset.
And the triumphant return of both Venus and Mars during the month of August.
It's all there for you to see if you remember to keep looking up.
And welcome back to the show. So sorry about the quiet transition there, but we'll roll right on into the ice along the coast. Just to the north of Barrow, it is beginning to melt. So along the Hannah Shoals area, you can see that we've had some melting continue since the last update yesterday. So be aware that the melting will continue as we head into the beginning of the weekend. Looking at your southeastern areas for tomorrow, Friday, lighter winds mostly out of the north, and then towards the Dixon entrance, a change of direction out of the southeast between 10 to 20 knots. And then the inner channels will see seas around 2 feet. The outer waters will be between 5 and 6 feet. Looking at your Saturday forecast, a little bit more of a northerly flow across the entire area between 10 and 20 knots. Seas across the inner channels around 3 feet, and the outer waters will be between 4 and 5 foot. So looking at the western areas of the Gulf, Prince William Sound, lighter wind speeds here as we head into your Friday, variable towards the northern Gulf and Prince William Sound back towards the Cook Inlet, all variable there. And then across Kodiak Island, we'll see a little bit stronger wind between 20 and 25 knots, small craft across the Shelikof Strait. Seas across the northern and southern inlet and on over towards Prince William Sound, seas will be 2 feet there, and between 4 and 5 foot across the western areas of the Gulf and Shelikof Strait, Barren Islands area between 4 and 5 feet. Looking at your Saturday forecast, lighter wind speeds on this day, variable conditions out there across the Barren Islands and western areas of the Gulf, Prince William Sound, a little bit more of a southerly flow across the Cook Inlet, Shelikof Strait, and south of Kodiak Island there between 10 and 15 knots. We'll see seas around 4 feet across the Cook Inlet down towards the Shelikof Strait area. Seas will be 3 feet, and then 3 to 4 foot seas across the areas of the western Gulf and 2 foot seas across Prince William Sound. Looking at your Friday forecast for the Alaska Peninsula, winds will be between 10 to 15 knots out of the west to southwest, primarily variable winds here along the northern Alaska Peninsula. Seas will be 3 feet on the Bering side and 4 to 5 feet across the Pacific side. Heading into your Saturday forecast, more of a southwesterly flow across the area at 10 to 20 knots, and then Bering side, again, we'll see seas around 3 feet and then 5 to 6 feet across the Pacific side. The Aleutians on Friday, we'll see mainly a southerly wind flow across much of the area ahead of the low pressure system out there, and the winds will be between 10 and 20 knots. Stronger winds out towards Shemya will be 25 knots out of the northwest, with seas highest out here around 9 feet and 4 to 7 foot seas across the Bering areas, slightly higher 7 to 8 feet across the northern Pacific. Looking at your Saturday forecast, change of direction for the winds mainly to be out of the southwesterly direction between 20 to 25 knots across most of the chain. So small craft advisories out there with the northwesterly wind continuing across the western Aleutians. With the 8 to 9 feet seas out towards the central and western Aleutians, it'll be a little bit better conditions between 5 to 8 feet across the eastern half of the Aleutians. Looking at your west coastal areas tomorrow, we'll see a variable wind flow and also out of the west across most of the area between 10 to 15 knots, and then seas will be between 2 to 4 foot across the area. Heading into your Saturday, we pick up a northerly flow across the northern Bering around 15 knots, with 10 to 15 knots as you head towards the central areas between 2 to 4 foot seas across the southern areas and 4 foot seas across the northern areas of the Bering. Looking at your northwest coast, back here towards Kotzebue Sound, we'll see a northerly wind flow at 15 knots, changing directions as you head up the coast. 20 knot winds changing from the west to the southeast. Over across the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, we'll see small craft winds out there at 25 knots. Seas along the eastern Beaufort Sea will be 4 feet and 4 to 8 feet across the Chukchi Sea area back towards the Kotzebue Sound. On Saturday, expect lighter winds between 10 to 15 knots across the entire area, westerly becoming more of a southerly or southeasterly directions for most locations. It's a little bit difficult because we have high pressure off to the east and low pressure moving in from the west. So seas on this day, 2 feet across the eastern sea coast, and then we'll be seeing 6 to 7 feet elsewhere. Now just to recap your forecast one more time, we have this cold front moving into the northwest coast areas, and we'll see some light rain along that. For tonight, possible thunderstorms from Fairbanks and east and along the eastern areas of the Alaska Range, Copper River Valley. We'll see light rain moving into the southeast. Here's that front across the western areas of the Aleutians, kind of staying in place. Another wave of energy coming up to the chain. Some areas of fog continuing during the overnight hours into Friday. The front just making its way a little bit further into the Seward Peninsula, bringing some light rain across the northwestern coast, and also some light showery activity continuing across the coastal areas, mainly diurnally driven. Southeastern areas will see rain through your day on Friday, lighter rain on Saturday for the southeast, showers across the state, and the front remaining across the western areas of the Aleutians. Thanks for staying with us tonight. We look forward to you coming back and enjoying our show again tomorrow night. So have a great night.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.